one of the issues that we're focusing on is also turnout. That's going to be critical, especially when it comes to HBCUs. In North Carolina, there's a massive effort to drive African Americans to the polls. And of course, North Carolina has the largest number of HBCUs in the country. Joining us right now is Dr. William Barber. Of course, he has the North Carolina NAACP. Joins us via Skype from Statesville, North Carolina. Reverend Barber, first and foremost, this effort has been going on now almost a week. How's it going thus far?
Well, Roland, with your help, it has been tremendous. Students have walked to these early voting sites. And one of the things I'm so impressed by, Roland, is most of these college HBCUs had early voting sites on their campuses. The Republican Party, after we won our victory, made a decision, sent a memo to their local boards of election telling them to implement policies that reflected Republican values. So, for instance, in Greensboro, you had over 12 sites before. They may have 2 now, but the one on A&T's campus was taken off. The one at North Carolina Central's campus was taken off. But students said, we're not going to let anything turn us around, and they've been marching to the polls and lighting up social media. Tomorrow, on the 27th, however, the early voting site is back on the campus of North Carolina Central, and they're having a massive march to the polls because people can register and vote on the same day, and they do not need a photo ID.
And obviously, one of the we saw there in North Carolina, where you had Republicans in the legislature pass one of the most onerous voter suppression bills in the country. In fact, a federal appeals court struck it down, stating clearly that they had a laser-like focus targeting African Americans, shaving off early voting locations, getting rid of Sunday voting, making massive changes. And they said this is reminiscent of Jim Crow days. And I've said it, North Carolina is the 21st century Alabama.
Indeed, this is our Selma. And in fact, they said it was the worst voter suppression since Jim Crow, and it was surgical racism. One of the things we're doing, we're having a major press conference on Friday because we may be headed back to court. We've demanded that the State Board of Election open up early voting sites, particularly down east in eastern North Carolina, where we had 38 counties hit by the floods. Some of those counties only have one early voting site. Some of them do not have Saturday and Sunday voting. They have done everything they could to suppress the vote, but people are still standing in line 2 and 3 hours. But we are going to push. We may be back in court to ask for some temporary restraining orders. We'll have a big announcement about that on Friday. But we have to fight. This is indeed a form of kind of Selma, Roland. You got it exactly right.
All right, then, Reverend William Barber, we surely appreciate it, and we'll keep driving this thing home for the next 12 days.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Let's go to our panel, Brandon Cooper, Dr. Julian Malveaux, as well as Ray Baker. Brandon, what you have here is we started in Wisconsin, where a clerk there specifically said she was not going to put a early voting location on a college campus there because they're likely to vote Democrats. That's in Governor Scott Walker's state. You see what's happening in North Carolina. Why do Republicans insist on trying to suppress the votes of young people, but especially African Americans?
The one thing you get from me is that I'll call Democrats out and Republicans out when they make misgivings. So any barrier to voting is wrong. I won't say it's not all Republicans. You can make that brand, gesture if you want to. But any opposition to voting, I'm opposed to. So I'm agreeing with you that any barrier to voting should be eliminated. That we should have many people voting and need to get out to vote.
So you said you're voting for Donald Trump. What do you make of his campaign making it clear that they want to intimidate black voters?
Go ahead, Roland.
They want to send poll watchers as well, specifically to African American polling precincts.
Yes, and so issues with elections is not unique to Republicans. I'm in Maryland and Baltimore earlier this year during the primary. There was rampant fraud or misgivings during the Democrat primary. So this happens to be so poll watchers is not. Let me finish. Sending poll watchers is something that both sides of the aisle has done. They always do it. It does not mean intimidation. And I agree they need to do it in line with the law and not to be intimidating. But this act of sending a poll watcher is not intimidation.
In North Carolina, it has universally been Republicans. In the 100 counties in North Carolina, Republican voter county heads of election have refused early voting, refused Saturday and Sunday voting, as Reverend Barber has said. These are Republicans, and they have out of their mouth said, if they were Democrat, if the voters were possibly Republicans, it would be different. You can vote with a gun license, but not with a student ID. You know, come on now. And you don't tell me anything about rampant fraud in Maryland, because there was no rampant fraud. That cannot be proved.
Ray Baker.
I appreciate Brandon's comment about, well, not all Republicans sound a lot like our friends who say, well, not all cops are bad, but it's the cops who are still killing us nonetheless.
I'm saying both sides. Just be fair.
To be fair, Brandon, this isn't. We don't have to present both sides in the name of objectivity when objectivity is false.
No, you should.
When objectivity is false, we've seen time and time again, including in Texas, when then Attorney General but now Governor Greg Abbott, when the Shelby County law struck down the Supreme Court, said Texas will now have stringent voter ID laws, which were targeting African Americans. These laws repeatedly and surgically are targeting African Americans, and that's problematic. Lastly, Brandon, I'm from Baltimore. I live in Baltimore right now. It's unfair to nationally mischaracterize what happened in Baltimore during the primary season as rampant fraud.
No, I said across the country. I said across the country.
You specified
Actually,
Baltimore.
that was one example. That was one example. That was one example.
Look,
hold on. Let me
you
finish.
cannot show any rampant fraud. No, let me just say this. There was a story that said that looking at 1 billion votes, 1 billion votes from 2000 to 2014, 31 cases of proven fraud.
And that's similar to jaywalking. So in District of DC last year, you worked for DC Department of Transportation, there may be, 1,000 tickets for jaywalking. Does that mean there was no other jaywalking? Does that mean that just because there are dead people that have voted? No, this is not. You keep
dead
talking
people
over
do
me.
not vote.
All right.
Stop talking over me.
Okay, Brandon, you got 30 seconds to make this point.
What?
But
No, again, there's no point to make. You got to try to make it.
But the jaywalking ain't gonna fly.
No.
Hold on, Ray. Go ahead.
This. Yes, any barrier to voting is wrong, Roland. We're all in agreement on that point here. No disagreement on that. But to say that there has not been dead people voting, to say that there is not election fraud, I work on campaigns.
Okay.
You cannot say that.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.